Hello everyone and Andrew, and welcome today to this incredible platform where I am very honoured to be interviewing fantastic people, not just from the same industry, but also from different industries and internationally. Now today I am joined by the hugely tech-savvy Andrew Davis. He is a keynote speaker in digital marketing and social media and content marketing trainer. Andrew has over 19 years experience and has trained over 11,000 people and helped thousands of businesses. Not only has he moderated chat rooms for the likes of Pop Idol and Liverpool Football Club, he has also produced shows for BBC Radio 1 Extra. And not forgetting that he was also on the advisory committee for Ofcom England for 4 years. Now, people and brands right now want the answer to this ever-pressing question in digital and social media. So what? And we're going to be asking Andrew all about that today. We cannot wait. Now, he has transformed organisations with their business development, their communication, and their marketing activity through marketing and digital platforms, and essentially looking through that digital lens to help companies bring in new business and to also nurture those really great existing client relationships. Working for some of the UK's brilliant companies, the likes of Royal Mail, Tesco, KPMG, Accenture, to name but a few. And your business, Talk Digital, Andrew, is almost 12 years old. Wow, we've done it. What a pleasure to have you on the show. You have a great career experience and CV. Hello, how are you? How's things?
Oh, hello. Well, first off, thanks for that intro. You remembered more about me than me. So that's really good. Thank you very much. I was going through it. I was like, oh, wow, I remember that as well. But no, thank you very much for that. And thank you for inviting me to talk.
You're very welcome. It really is an honor. And I can tell you bring so much energy into this Zoom call. And I know that you're the kind of person, Andrew, that would walk into a room, light up a room, and I've still got that wonderful vibe just by being here on my laptop. So high five to you. And how's it going? How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been going all right actually. This furlough definitely not furlough, the COVID, I should say, definitely changed everything. It's definitely changed the world for a. We'll see whether it's a better place, but that's still obviously we still need to wait and find out. But it's definitely changed everything. It's definitely changed many industries. For what I do, which is, as you mentioned, training and Keynote, it's definitely gone from face-to-face to obviously Zoom, or a lot of e-courses as well. I still think it's going to be a while before people feel comfortable to go face-to-face. I think you're pretty much looking towards the end of the year. I'm in my mind, I've kind of said 2021. That's where things are kind of going to get back to some form of normality.
You're not alone with that. I think 2021, it's almost like this unveiling of the glorious year ahead, and it's got shiny lights and everybody's getting really excited because nobody knows, do they? There's no crystal ball. It's all very much predictions, whilst we're all trying to survive in business. It's very, sadly so, the virus is also trying to survive, and it's about that management right now, isn't it? And trying to find safe ways. I mean, what does it look like? What's kind of springs to mind when you think about that, and minus a crystal ball, but looking forwards over the next sort of 6 months, what would you say?
So I think if you look at it, for example, from a digital marketing point of view, I think you're going to find a lot of the platforms are going to increase, whether it be sign-ups or engagements. You're going to see the main ones are going to do well: the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the YouTubes, the WhatsApps, the Pinterest. They're all what we've seen increase. Sites like TikTok has kind of come about. It's been around before, from the Musical.ly days to TikTok, but obviously the coronavirus has kind of taken it to a whole new level. So I think you're going to have more and more those organizations, as well as the Amazons, are going to do very, very well. And then that leads to the digital transformation for a lot of brands. I've been training since 2009 full time. And a lot of what I've been doing is about digital transformation and getting ready for the time when we need to, everybody's going to be on the internet, and how is your organization going to adapt? And I've always said playing catch up is a very timely and costly experience.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think this would come about, and that will be the reason, but it has. And what you're seeing is that playing catch up is a very timely and costly experience. So hopefully within the next 6 months, more and more organizations is starting to appreciate digital. Because I think it was more of something they spoke about up here, but when it comes to taking action, it was down here. But now you're starting to see, actually, for us to survive, we really need to be online and offline. It needs to kind of go like this now.
Yeah, have like the two, so that companies can flex into their online version and then their physical when the time presents. And who would you say, out of, say, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and large and super large businesses, who was the most digitally ready overall, or roughly speaking? Because I know that might be a little bit hard, but
Sure. So I guess from the big businesses, Amazon, obviously, but they were already like that anyway. So they obviously done well. And Amazon, even though it's a digital platform, you still need to get the physical product. So it's an online and offline business that works like this. I think that someone like kind of opposite to what the question is, who didn't do well, was Primark, because Primark never really had an e-commerce store. So, yeah. And I remember not working with them, but I remember there was some form of proposal that came out, and they were like, well, actually, we're not looking to do anything online. And this was about 3 years ago.
Wow.
When I spoke to them. So I think they obviously, and I think they went from 600 million a week they were making to zero. So obviously that's a huge loss. Other ones as well that's done well. I think anybody that's in a space where you can deliver your service online, offline, has pretty much done well for small businesses. I know, let's say, for example, a lot of small restaurants has gone on Deliveroo and Uber Eats, and they've actually done very well off the back of that. Some of the local fish and chip shop, they've stayed open. They never closed. Yeah. Obviously, it hurt because people couldn't go in because they had a little small bit for seats. But they said that's gone down, but Deliveroo and Uber Eats is kind of gone through the roof. So they actually made more money, and that's just a local shop. So any small businesses or medium-sized business that can deliver their product in an online and offline environment, I think they've done well. Now, if you can do that seamlessly and you haven't done well, then it might go down to a lot of it to do with your marketing or with your proposition. Because, like I said, the opportunities has been there.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say should be like the key marketing message for a company during this time? Would it be about how, say, for example, they've adapted? Would it be about their top best-selling products? Or would it be about where they're going in the future and their values? Or is it a combination? What's your feel around that, Andrew?
So my attitude to digital in general is this. Yeah, I started working full time in this space in 2001, as you mentioned, when I was moderating chat rooms for Pop Idol and Liverpool, but also Sony PlayStation and Friends Reunited as well. I don't know if you remember that site, Friends Reunited.
I know, yes. Facebook took over.
Yeah, exactly. So I was doing that from then, and from 2001 to now, I can safely say, professionally, nothing has changed. Really? And what I mean by that, including the coronavirus, and what I mean by that is, you still need something to sell, which will be your product or service. You still need somewhere to sell it, which is going to be offline or online. At the moment, predominantly online. And you still need someone to sell it to. Mm-hmm. And those three things hasn't changed. And add in the coronavirus, add in what's going to happen over the next 10 years, those three things will still be consistent for any business. So if you're a business, you need to be thinking those three things. But when we talk about change and things moving all the time, really we're saying two things, and that is human behavior or technology. And they're the things that change all the time. So as a business, a small business, it's always important to understand that we still need something to sell, somewhere to sell it, someone to sell it to. But
Yeah.
what is the behavior of the people now? We've gone from attention span to here to here. You know, you've got 5 seconds to get to the point on YouTube before someone's clicking skip that ad. The user funnel has changed, where it's typical sales funnel, create the awareness, and then it goes down to people buy. Now you might create the awareness at an event, but I might not be at the event, but I've seen a tweet or I've seen a hashtag, and that's how I've got into the funnel. So there's many different behavior changes, and obviously the technology changes to do with the platforms. In the future, you're looking at virtual reality, augmented reality, but ultimately mobile changed everything. So it's just making sure that you understand that bit, and then understand that if you're going to use, for example, social media to help get your message out there, that I've worked in social media since 2006. One thing wasn't mentioned is that I was part of the team to launch MySpace in the UK. So I don't know if it's MySpace. So
2009.
what was that?
It was 2006 to 2009. That
yes,
period.
yeah. The MySpace days. So I was there when Facebook was only available to students. So this was like right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And again, from then to now, so in 2006 to 2020, when it comes, I've seen a lot of businesses. I've trained, like I said, five figures amount of businesses I've changed, and people I've seen. This game is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple in the sense that everybody is trying to create some form of content. They're trying to promote that content, and they're trying to get people to do something. So I always say, create, distribute, convert. If you understand that principle and understand the simplicity of it, then you'll have success. Because if you want success, you're going to have to create some form of content on the internet. You're going to have to promote that content. And ultimately, you're going to have to get somebody to do something. Hence why I say the question, so what? Because, as I said, this stuff's simple. Hence why you've got 15-year-old millionaires. Or you've got 16-year-old kids that's got agencies that's making like 7 figures a month. Wow. It's that simplicity of it. They've not got a degree. We're not trying to work out algorithms. We just need to create content, promote content, and then ultimately ask people to do some form of action, which will be linked to your objective for your business.
It's so fascinating, and I love how you really harness the behavior of what can be achieved, but also the reality of how I imagine a lot of people think that they have to make it really complicated and take away that simplicity, when actually the more simple the message becomes, the clearer it is, the more that people are more likely to digest it, I imagine.
Definitely. Keep it simple. It's the famous saying, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Because the reality, going back to behavior, we don't have the luxury of time anymore. You know, you've got seconds, like people skipping this way or swiping this way. You've got the reason Twitter became popular is because it was getting to the point quickly. So we're in this get to the point quickly world. So it's really important to understand that behavior, because if you don't understand that behavior, you do something very complicated, people, you've lost them. They're just going to go somewhere else. So I always say to people, right, keep it simple, especially now more than any other time before in history. Just keep it simple, get to your point. You can get complicated later, because complication might help depending on your target audience, because you might need to kind of prove that you're a thought leader, or if they want to understand more. But that can be on your website, that could be elsewhere. But in the general social spaces, to create that from an awareness stage, you know, just keep it simple.
That hook, that initial bit, keep it simple, get them interested, and then it's what you do with that interest, isn't it? And what is it, or what's your most favorite part about human behavior when it comes to tech? What is it that really captures your creativity, your imagination, that you just love to zone in on about that? You know, that might be it might be all of it, but if there's just one standout bit of human behavior that is linked to tech, what really sort of draws you in?
For me, I guess it's the aha moment. it's the bit when people see something and think, okay, this is cool, but I don't get it. Then
Yeah.
it goes from, okay, this is cool, I see why people use it. Then it goes to, this is cool, I can see why I'm going to use it now.
Yeah.
And I think that's key. But the other thing as well, and this is, I'm always very much about behavior and tech, and I'm probably this to behavior and this to tech. You know, I'm probably 55 behavior, 45% tech. Even though most of the people in this industry is more tech focused.
Yeah.
I prefer human behavior than tech, because what I've seen a lot of tech come and go. You know, I've worked for MySpace. It was the biggest website in the world to nothing in a year. So I've seen tech come and go. And I realized that people are not tech loyal or brand loyal, they're friend loyal. They'll go to what their friends are doing. So that's a behavior trait.
Yeah.
So for me, it's I like that side. I like tech, but for me, what makes tech interesting is the behavior behind it. And that for me is the key thing, because I've seen a lot of clever people come up with amazing technology, but no one wants it. Or people see it and think, oh, that's interesting, and they use it once, and then there's no reason for it to become a habit or a part of their behavior patterns. And then I think a lot of the time is tech, they just forget the human side of it, where they go, as I said, a lot in this hand in hand.
And what was it about MySpace that you think it just needed that extra injection of, so that, you know, in 2020 we might have all been talking about
On it, sure.
MySpace. What was it? Yeah. Or what do you
still do a lot of talks all over. I still do a lot of talks all over the world about what happened. Like, how did you go from the biggest website in the world to zero? Okay, so MySpace, you can basically break it down in a number of reasons, but I'll give you two.
Yeah.
The first reason why, so I just to let you know, I joined MySpace 2006, so I saw the rise and I saw half of the fall, and I kind of left like halfway there. Yeah. So I'm looking at what made it work, and then obviously what hurt them.
Yeah.
The first thing was it was owned by News Corp. So it was owned by News International, Rupert Murdoch. So within that, you had Sky, you had Fox. It was actually part of Fox, which was also had obviously 21st Century Fox, and it was all of that kind of under Fox, Fox Interactive Networks, I think it was called. And what you have there, you have a traditional company managing a new tech company back in 2005, round about this was. So the problem with that is they will monetize it like how they've always monetized content. And that is, we give you content and then we'll stick ads throughout. So rather than you let's say if it's TV, I'm watching something and then an ad will come, then I watch the rest. So it's disrupting my viewing. And they tried to do that with MySpace, and it just doesn't work. It's a completely different platform. Hence why Facebook managed to get it right, because Facebook were in no rush and they managed to understand how ads work. Hence why there's a lot of details around relevancy in ads now. Yeah. And that was one reason. So it tried to put a traditional company in a digital company. It didn't work. Now, in all fairness to them, there was no blueprint. There was no, let's look at these company because they done it wrong, and because MySpace was the first. So it's easy for an Instagram or a YouTube or any of them to look at MySpace's mistakes or Dig's mistakes or stumble upon mistakes, etc., and do it that way. So that was one reason. The second reason was to do with innovation. And again, this is one of those big words that you hear. Now, when it comes to innovation, I always say innovate around the edges, but keep the core the same. So if you look at Google's core is to do with ads and search. And that's the core. And they'll go and they'll do their Google glasses and all the other things, but that's innovation around the edges. They keep the core the same. Same as Amazon. Amazon's core is getting you your gift or whatever you've bought from A to Z in like a click now. They keep that the same. Yes, they'll do Kindle. Yes, they'll do, I've even seen football on their Amazon Prime, but the core is still the same. MySpace's core was really connecting people to music. That was pretty much what it was about. And if MySpace stuck to the core, MySpace would be Spotify right now. Because when you look at music, the hardest thing on the internet, or one of the hardest things, is getting the licenses for music.
Yes.
And MySpace had all of the licenses from all the labels, or pretty much most of them from all the labels. So you had everything in place. You had the artist, you had the people, and you had the licenses, which is what took Spotify X amount of years to do, and Apple Music X amount of years to do. So MySpace had that back in 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
Then it was just obviously the independent artists, which would have been easier. It's just getting it from the major labels. So I always say that that's the other thing. But MySpace, obviously, at the time, we're competing against this new video platform we've created called YouTube, because 90% of YouTube's traffic was on MySpace. We're competing against this image site called Slide. I don't know if anyone remembers Slide, but Slide was like the Instagram back in the day. We're competing against this new social media site called Bebo. We're competing against this other site that seems to be quite boring, but only for kids, called Facebook. So we're competing against all of these four at the same time, where actually we should have just stuck to music and entertainment. But obviously hindsight is a great thing to have many years later. But I would say they're the two main reasons why MySpace failed. But I could give you a whole day's worth of reasons. But I would say they're the two big ones.
That's so fascinating. And you can definitely, whilst it had its huge rise and then it had that fall, like you say, when there isn't the blueprint, there isn't anybody who's gone before, you're putting your head above the parapet. And then, like you say, Andrew, hindsight is a wonderful thing. But who knows how many of those now digital platforms that are worldwide successful. I wouldn't be surprised, and I doubt you would be either, if they haven't taken those lessons from MySpace and put them into their own, operational plan and structure. And that essentially might have also saved them from their own downfall. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I definitely think it would be silly if they didn't.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of people who was at MySpace went and worked for a lot of big companies anyway. So it
Cool.
was,
Yeah.
you're always if you want success in business, you're always gonna look at who got to the level we want to get to,
Yeah.
and are they still there? If not, they failed. What did we learn?
Yeah.
So a lot of people, when it comes to MySpace, very rarely do I get asked what made you successful. It's always, why did you fail? So, like, what did you do? What were the lessons that you can kind of extract from that? And that's what I actually get. And like I said, it's any smart business would do that. You'll look at not just MySpace, but you'll look at other businesses that's kind of lost its power. I think Twitter's one at the moment where it's not as popular as it used to be. So people will be looking at that thinking, okay, well, where did Twitter go wrong? And that's another one to look at.
Cool. And, during this time in lockdown, Andrew, I have to ask, amongst all the tech and digital prowess and fantastic work out there, and I've got some cool questions for you after this, but I have to jump in and find out here, what has been your guilty pleasure, aside from...
Okay, my guilty pleasure, where do I start? To be honest, I actually said to myself, I said, you know what, Andrew, I know what you're like. Try not to get into bad habits. And I actually have managed not to get into too many bad habits, because I know that it was like, because what happened was I had a lot of bookings. I was pretty much booked out all of March, all of April, all of May. And as a trainer and as a speaker, June, July, August is usually quite quiet. June is actually okay, but July and August is usually quite quiet, just because you don't usually have everyone in the office at the time and people on holidays, etc. So people wait till September and October. So I said, all right, all of a sudden I went from being booked out completely to zero, because everyone rescheduled. So, because obviously at the time in March, nobody knew what was going to happen. So for about 6 weeks, I didn't do anything really. And then all of a sudden, like, it started to, like, people started to contact you again. But what I found, I said, all right, don't get too cozy. Don't get too complacent. So I said, have a week off, because this year actually has been quite busy. So have a week off. So I went out, I bought a PlayStation, and then just did nothing really that week. And then I kind of said to myself, right, have a routine. So I actually The only guilty pleasure I have now is I watch a lot of Netflix and YouTube. Like, I watch a lot of that. But in all fairness, I
Mhm,
don't usually watch Netflix
mhm.
until about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
wait till the evening, and then from 10 to about 2 in the morning, I'll watch whatever film or series I'm watching at the moment. So during this time, I've watched a lot of series. I watched Money Heist, which is brilliant. I watched The Gangs of London. Right now, I'm watching Breaking Bad. And I've watched all of the Marvel films. I've watched a lot of John Wick films and Planet of the Apes films. I've watched actually quite a lot. So that's my guilty pleasure. What I have also done is I've actually kind of doing a lot of like exercise at home. So I kind of make sure I kind of balance it out.
Mhm.
So I do a lot of exercise at home. I've bought one of those big boxing punch bags. So
Yeah.
yeah, I bought one of those. And then so yeah, I try and work out at least a couple of hours every day. So that's kind of like to kind of balance it out.
Netflix is so good, isn't it? And I always do that bit, you know, when you're just on the verge of sleep, but you're hooked and you think, just
One
one
more
more
episode. Yeah,
episode.
yeah.
Your eyes are
What's been,
burning, you know that you need to sleep, and you just think, I need to know
yeah.
what happens.
What's been your guilty pleasure?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, do you know what? I have to admit, very much the same. It's been Netflix. I have really loved getting into, and probably about, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night as well, when you think, right, everything's done, Veton, right, what can I get stuck into? And been watching some really great like series and dramas and some great films on there. And I love Marvel. I just think, if actually all those superheroes were real,
Oh
um,
yeah, yeah. Make
and
your life a lot easier.
walking the streets, keeping everybody in check, Captain America, hello. Um, that would be really, really quite a nice perk to the day, rather. But I'd say, oh gosh, cake.
Oh, okay, sure.
I would. There's a lovely walk near where we live, and it goes up to like a trig point, and you can be out for a good hour and a half, 2 hours, and you come back and you feel like you've, you know, earned some beer and cake tokens, as it were. So I think, oh yeah,
Yeah.
let's have a big slice of that carrot cake. But yeah, I've never been a mega cake fan, and then lockdown unveiled this new love for cake, and it's still.
Feeling you came out and you realized you wanted cake.
Yeah, that's it. Cake makes everything better. Any kind of cake, cupcake, big cake.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sweet tooth in action.
Right.
So that's been good fun. But I suppose taking all those wonderful guilty pleasures, and as we move forwards into this sort of next chapter of the year, I suppose, what has stood out for you? And I know that I've seen a couple of posts on your LinkedIn, which I love, and it's about the innovation of handheld tech. And I know that you have suffered for 12 years now, I believe, with repetitive strain injury with your hand, and you're excited with the future of going beyond voice activated tech and actually looking at a couple of handheld devices that, when worn, they, move things on a
Yeah.
laptop, and that cut and paste where you can take things from inside the space and drop it onto another
Sure,
screen.
yeah.
It's so cool. Tell us more about that. What stood out?
Yeah, I guess so for me, the reason why I'm interested in a lot of anything that you don't have to touch the keyboard, because in 2008 I started having problems with my finger. Well, actually, this finger here, my index finger on my right hand, which then quickly spread over to my whole hand, both hands, and ended up realizing after like a long story, it's ended up suffering from repetitive strain injury, and that's the reason why I actually started training in the first place, because I realized that I don't have the power of my hands now.
Yeah.
So when it came to getting into training or speaking, it became actually a process of elimination. So for me, it was like, right, I can't use my hands. What can I do? I can use my feet, but okay, I can't play football. I can't make a career of a dancer. So that's out. And then it was like, okay, I can't sing, I can't rap. Okay, teach. And that's kind of like how I got into teaching. And it literally became that process of elimination. So that's how I got into teaching. And then after that, I started looking into, all right, well, actually, you realize how much you use your hands when you're in pain. And you realize you use your hands for even little things like, for example, chip and pin. That would cause pain. Or you do something on the laptop and for some reason it didn't type it, or things like that. So I started getting into voice recognition software back in 2008, 2009, which wasn't very good then. So fast forward 10 years, and now voice recognition is really good. Like pretty much 95% of the WhatsApp messages I send to people, it's through voice. And even on my laptop, I do a lot of stuff through voice. It's still not there when it comes to using the mouse. I don't think it's very good that way. But what I do as well is I'm always looking at what's next. And I've seen a lot of technology where it's almost like you want to swipe left, you're going like this, and you swipe right, you want to go up, you're just using your hands and your arm movement, and it's those gestures. And you're starting to see that. So what I've been doing is I'm always looking for new things, and anything that I see that I think is actually this would be pretty good, rather than just kind of keep it to myself, I share it with people, because I know that there's a lot of people who follow me because of repetitive strain injury, and because I wrote a blog post probably about 10 years ago now about it, kind of explaining it, and off the back of that I had loads of people following me, and still do to this day. So I'm always looking for kind of cool stuff that's happening next. However, I would say a lot of the stuff that I share, going back to what we were talking about technology earlier on, sometimes create great tech, but it might not be ready yet. And that's the thing. So a lot of the stuff that I've shared, it's there, but it's almost like stage one, like almost like beta stage. So it's kind of almost like with speech recognition, where it got in early and it was still needed a lot to do. And sometimes the frustration I found with some of that, when it doesn't work, it actually makes it worse. So you end up, because one of my pet peeves is I hate technology not doing what it's supposed to do. Like, it really annoys me. So what I find as well is I like to showcase stuff, but I'm also in my mind thinking, right, let me try this when it's available, but don't get your hopes up, because we need to see if it works. Going back to the aha moment, I see how this works for me. So like I said, I always like to share, and if it helps people. But the reality is, regardless if you've got pain in your hands or not, some of these things, if you can get it to work, it's going to actually be more productive for you. So for example, even the voice, when you send your WhatsApp messages, is very clear now. And you can say it and do it a lot quicker than you could if you type. And I know people are really quick at typing, and also very good at when it comes to predictive text, but it's actually very good. It's actually quicker if you couldn't dictate it via voice.
Voice notes, I really have got into them. They're so good. And sometimes tone and expression and that intention of what's meant in the content can be completely lost if it's just in a message. Whereas when you're recording it, you do get the essence of that person far better. So it's that way in which we keep advancing technology, so that I suppose it better represents what it is that that person's either trying to say, or that action that they're trying to recreate. And the closer it gets to being on point, I'm guessing the human experience of that's going to be better than the version before.
Definitely voice notes, but this is what I was saying, is not voice notes. This was voice dictation. So there's actually, if you go on WhatsApp, there's two microphones. So one is the voice note, and then there's another one where you can press and you speak, and it types out exactly what you're saying.
Well,
so there's two. So I actually do both. But if I'm sending text, I use the voice dictation one.
Oh, do you know, my apologies there. That's just totally... I've learned there's two microphones here.
Well, I've got an iPhone, so I'm not sure if it's on what it's like on an Android device. But on an iPhone device, if you it has two microphones. So I'll quickly show you. So it's can you see? I don't know if you can
Oh, yeah,
see.
yeah. One at the bottom.
Can you
Yeah.
see?
Yes.
It says the one at the bottom.
Yeah.
So you've got this one here, which
Uh-huh.
is there
Yeah.
on top, and then you got one at the bottom. It's the one at the bottom. That's the one that you use. The one at the top is the one for voice notes. The one at the bottom is the one for voice dictation.
Well,
That's what.
you know those memes that you see that says I was this day old when I learned about this. That's
Yeah,
those.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've technologically evolved during this interview. That's brilliant. So, in terms of all, I mean, wow, you're blowing me away, Andrew, with such passionate and knowledgeable insight into tech. And I can imagine that anybody who listens to you present or works with you and with their business is just constantly driven and inspired, because who wouldn't be, to be quite frank? And you clearly know your stuff and have, you know, so well read about other tech businesses, and like you say, learning about hindsight, using failures in business to evolve the next big thing. And so if somebody wanted to connect with you and work with you, you've got a great website, but what would be the way in which you'd love to build that relationship with them? Because I can guarantee there'll be people watching this who are going to think, wow,
Sure.
I need a dose of this amazing mind into my company. How do they do that, Andrew?
Okay, so the best way to reach me is via LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn is linkedin.com/in/Andrew M. Davis.
Yep.
So M for Miles Davis. That's the best way, and that's where I'm active the most. Like, yeah, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, but I don't really use them that much. More for listening and researching. I'm not active. If you want me to, every day I post, or pretty much every day. At the moment, because of obviously what's been happening with the Black Lives Matter and as well as obviously the COVID, I've not been posting as much. But what the best place to find me is LinkedIn. That's where I pretty much post all the time. You can go to my website, which is andrewmilesdavis.com. So Davis spelled Davis. And on that, there's actually a free guide, which has got marketing tools. So I update this tools where it's free marketing tools. So when I say free, I don't mean free for 7 days or 14 days. These are free, completely free all the time. So on that site, you'll see I've got over 500 free tools on the internet. So, and I update it. I'm going to update it in April, but it's now coming up to June. So I'm going to update it very, very soon. I've got another 60 tools that I'm going to add to that. And some tools I need to delete because they just ran out over time. So I'll be definitely doing a big update soon. So have a look at that guide, because there's so many different tools that you can get, and it's in different sections. But that's my website as well. So I don't have an online course or anything, just because most of my training are corporate training. So I'll go into an organization, as you mentioned, like the Royal Mail, the KPMGs, whatever. And it's based on what they're after, rather than just a general overview generic course. So that's why I don't have an online training. But what I will start doing is start doing small snippets, kind of explaining bits and pieces as well. So that's kind of like what I'm going to be pushing. However, I've not worked out where I'm going to put it, whether or not I just keep it on LinkedIn, whether I make it longer and put it on YouTube. So that's kind of what I'm trying to work out at the moment. But yeah, the best way to keep in touch with me will be LinkedIn. So I would love to see you guys. If you can, send us a connection, and then just let me know that you came from this show via Emily. And yeah, it'd be great. I'd love to kind of hear feedback from people.
That sounds brilliant. And you'll be tagged in the video and the introductory post as well, Andrew. So anybody who wants to connect, do that. Andrew has welcomed you all to do just that. So go forward. And I think if we could part on some even more incredible wisdom from you, Andrew, what would you like to share with everybody from the heart, whether it's business, personal? what would you like to end this brilliant interview that I have loved? And by the way, I could keep talking to you and asking you a million, zillion more questions.
We'll do a part two.
Yeah, let's do a part two.
Yeah.
What would you like to share with everybody? What are your parting words?
Good question. I guess it's kind of looking at things from obviously the way the world is right now. We're not in a good place. I think it's going to be that way for a while. However, if you're looking at it from a business point of view, my attitude to things is this, and I've always said this when it comes to social media as well, or just general internet. If one person's done something, then it's possible. If it's possible, then you've just got to work out how to do it. And that's always been my attitude to things. If one person's done it, then it's possible. So then I've just got to work out, right, who's the person I can learn from? What's the resources I need? What's my goal? What's my strategy behind it? And I guess that's what I would say to anybody. Like when it comes to your business, whether you're an individual, whether you're a small business, whether you're a medium-sized business, or if you're a corporation, the reality is there are some businesses that's done very, very well out of this coronavirus. It's done very well out of this pandemic. If they've done well, why can't you? Because it's possible. So we just need to work out how, like, what are the case studies, or what can we do? And when we get back to the new normal, how can we then continue to be successful? And that's pretty much what I would say.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And you have been such a huge inspiration. I have absolutely loved this interview, and just how passionate and driven you are. It comes across by the bucket load. So thank you so much, Andrew. And I can imagine you must be an absolute pleasure to work with, and what you do for companies, transforming them, driving them forwards. I would come away from one of your workshops feeling pumped and ready to go. I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to change the world with my new plan.
Thank you very much for your feedback. It was really nice, very kind words. And thank you very much for inviting me. I really enjoyed it.
You are so welcome. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a super, super 2020. And we are going to get that part two booked in. You heard it here first. Thanks, Andrew. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.